Hi, Cathy Taylor here, proud member of the National Collage Society, and I'm going to be doing some altering of papers with Citra Solv and National Geographics. This is a product, Citra Solv. It's a natural cleanser, it's vegan and earth-friendly, and it's not dangerous to use, although it is a little smelly. So generally speaking, I'll do this outdoors, or I will do this with my windows open. So what we're going to do today is alter these magazines and create crazy papers. And these crazy papers are used for collage, and they're also used for painting into them, something that I kind of discovered. So let's get it started right away and start altering these papers. This is a National Geographic. Generally speaking, National Geographics that are 1970 and to date are better. This is because the inks are better on them. If you use a 1950s magazine, it's probably not going to alter as well as these. Also, National Geographic is created on clay-coated paper, and that's why this process works, because the Citrasolv actually acts as a solvent inside the magazine and dissolves the inks and creates all these crazy textures and patterns and colors and things that we'll be using in our collages and our paintings. National Geographic people are really smart, and therefore do not use the expensive papers, which are clay-coated, in the very beginning of the magazine. So anything that is in the beginning of the magazine that is an ad, if it's for Allegra or Special Care or any of that stuff, rip that out right away. Just take it and dispose of it, because you're not going to need it. The papers were not going to alter, and therefore you would waste your Citrasolv. So take the same thing off the back. This is just ads and stuff. Get rid of those, and now you're left with the bulk of the magazine. Pull out any advertisements or anything in the magazine, and then in addition, sometimes the magazine have these fold-outs like this. Tear the fold-out and place it in somewhere where there aren't a lot of colors, because this will give you another chance of getting some good colors on your Citrasolv paper. So I'm just going to go through here and check and see if we have any more fold-outs. Okay, no more fold-outs. All right, I'm not sure who invented this process. Artists have been using solvents for a long time in trying to alter papers and things and paints. We've used things like nail polish remover, which is acetone, which is icky, and turpentine, which is double icky because it's not good for the environment and it's not healthy for you to use. So this product is wonderful for altering papers, and as I said, it's not dangerous or anything. So what I'm going to do is I've punched a little hole in the top of the bottle. These come in different sizes. I got the extra big size. And I'm going to just put my finger over the little hole here, and I'm carefully going to place the Citrasolv inside the magazine. Here we go. Just carefully spill. Very careful. This is a very exacting process. Not really. And I'm going through every page, and as you can see, I'm just dribbling this in here. It's a real quick process. I've been asked if you can spray it with a spray bottle. Yes, you can. But it puts a lot of the smell up into the air, and I don't like breathing that, so I don't usually use a spray bottle. In addition, you can use a hockey brush, which is this type of brush, to brush it in if you desire. But I found that the random pattern created by sprinkling is far more interesting than you can get other ways. So this will be what we're going to do with the magazine all the way through, all pages. Big sloppy mess. I did this with one magazine for a workshop I was teaching, and we came across, you never know what you're going to find in these magazines, and we came across a picture of some sumo wrestlers, like this, you know, and I sprinkled them, and wouldn't you know, they're the only thing that didn't dissolve in the magazine, so I had to go back and dissolve it some more. They were really funny looking. Anyway, okay, so you go through the whole magazine, and it depends on the temperature that you're working in, and also the magazine itself, and there's no real rhyme or reason for it that I've found, how long it's going to take for the papers to alter. So we're going to go ahead and shut this down, squish it slightly. Do not mash the magazine, because if you mash the magazine, it's going to make all the Citrasolv squirt out, and then we're not going to get any results from it. While we're waiting on this magazine, I'm going to take this other magazine and show you just a couple of tricks that you can use to create different kinds of pages. We're going to take out the ads on the front, and then we're going to go in and using things like templates. You can put a template in here. You can use saran wrap, which is just clear, crunchy saran wrap. And when you put your pages in and sprinkle them, put those templates or the saran wrap in the pages. Oops. add. And this is going to create a whole different look to the page as you alter it. I also use artist tape, white artist tape, and I can block out things that I don't want to have go crazy on me. And I also have found, here's one that's done with artist tape. You can see where I put the artist tape here, and it left the little shutters, and the whole rest of the page dissolved. Same on this one here. Another thing that I like to use is tar gel. This is a viscous substance that you can actually draw with. And you just take a brush or a palette knife and dip it in the tar gel. And you're going to place it into the paper, just let it dribble. See how you can write with it? Everybody see that okay? It makes all sorts of designs. Once this dries, then place your Citrasolv into it, and it will resist the Citrasolv, and it makes a really cool texture. What it'll end up looking like, this is 2 pages that were together, and I had the tar gel in there and the Citrasolv, and this is what they ended up looking like. So they're really, really interesting looking papers. You can see the tar gel on this one. All right, let's see how we're doing with this magazine over here. And you're allowed to peek. It's okay to peek on these. See what's going on. Oh, it's starting. See how it's starting here? Just a little bit going on there. All right, so we're going to wait for a little bit longer while that takes hold. If you're working in a really cold place, it's going to take forever. I taught a workshop on Sanibel Island, Florida, which you would think is a warm place, and it was out on the lanai, which means that we were to the open air. And of course, it was 40 degrees outside. And I brought my magazine out of the car, which was warm, and I showed them how it altered, and it happened within about 10 minutes. And then I said, okay, all of you go back to your seats, here's your Citrasolv, and go alter your magazine. And they sprinkled it in, and half an hour later, nobody's magazine had done anything, and I was horrified. Well, it was because it was cold, and it took a while for the magazine to work. So if your magazine isn't altering right away, don't worry about it. Just walk away, go get yourself a cup of coffee, and come back, and it will soon alter itself. Something I also discovered works, and by the way, other magazines don't seem to work on this. I'm not sure why. Even some of the clay-coated paper magazines I got did not work. But what does work is I had my table spread with newspapers and old ads and stuff, and I was sprinkling Citrasolv, and all of a sudden I looked down, and this is just a piece of junk mail. It's for oil filters or something. But look what happened with the Citrasolv. Junk mail. Here's one, here's a coupon, also worked perfectly for it. This is out of some ads for some department stores. Again, the Citrasolv altered it and made some very neat papers out of it. This is one of those wine country deliveries things or something, one of the catalogs. So this is a great way to recycle your junk mail. You don't have to throw away your junk mail anymore. You can just sprinkle it with Citrasolv and make really cool, crazy papers. This is a makeup ad. Look what that did. It's amazing. Love it. And old catalogs. So you can use those as well as your National Geographics. It makes great collage material and also material that we can paint into. All right, let's come back and see what's going on with our magazine. Okay, here we go. You can see that this is starting to dissolve, and the original image is going away here. Here's another one. If you've got text in here that you don't want to see later, take your finger, or if you don't want to use your finger, use a brush, and you can come in and you can get rid of that because it's already dissolved. Then when I shut this magazine again, it'll be texture rather than the written word there. All right, so let's check in here and see what we've got going on. You can see these things are starting to alter. If it's not altering, sprinkle a little more Citrasolv in it. I must have missed a couple pages here. And a lot of times there'll be a lot of black inside of these magazines, and so there's a good black page. That's a lot of black in there. When I Citrasolv those pages, what I'm going to do is squish it, and that black juice will come out, and you just wipe that off with a paper towel. And that keeps it from being too black when you have your papers, so that your papers aren't icky black papers. Let's go back in here again and see what we've got going. Okay, this is really coming along nicely here. And again, you can alter papers with your finger or come in and create different textures with your fingers while this is being done. Look at that one. That's very cool. And I'm going to get rid of the text over here. And then when I close it back up, it'll become part of the texture. Is that cool? Here's some more text. We don't need that. Get rid of that. Something that's good to have is if you don't have disposable gloves, because sometimes Citrasolv is a really good solvent. And sometimes it will dissolve things. I had one student had these wonderful, these are the foam fruit trays that you use, you know, when you go to the grocery store, save all these things. And she decided she would pour her Citrasolv right in there and then use her hockey brush to brush this on. And about 4 minutes later, the Citrasolv had cleaned this to the point where it no longer existed. It totally melted it. But one product that is good to use, because this does make messy fingers, is this gloves in the bottle stuff. And I know Joe has some of this. This is where I got it. And it's great to squirt this on your fingers and rub it real good before you start doing this, because then afterwards your fingers won't look so gross. This does wash off, and interestingly enough, because this is a cleaner, I use Citrasolv to clean my fingers, which were made dirty by the Citrasolv in the magazine. So let's see what we've got going. Here's some more pages that are altering. And you can see some of these are taking a little bit longer. And that's fine. It's warm here in the studio, so here, oh, that's a beauty. Okay, now here's what happens. Once these things start going, we're going to take them out of here. Just rip them out and put them on your table. I've also got a piece of paper on the floor here where I can throw these so that they can dry. And if you're doing these outside, it's wonderful if you just throw them out on the grass. It doesn't hurt your grass, and it dries both sides really quickly, but you can't do it in a windstorm, obviously. I taught a class where we were doing this outside, and suddenly the wind came up and we had papers all the way to Wisconsin, so you have to be careful about that. Now this one has altered part of the page and part not, and I kind of like it because it's got this mountain up here, so I'm just going to leave that in there. People have asked me about copyright issues with this. Just keep in mind, if you were the photographer and you had taken this picture, if you could recognize it, even though it had been Citrasolved a little bit, you probably wouldn't be very happy about it. So just respect other artists' work, and what we want to do is make sure it's dissolved enough that the original image is not discernible, and so then you don't have to face any kind of copyright issue with this. This is a beauty. Look at this one. And you never know what you're going to get. I've used the same magazine several times, and every time the image comes out differently. You can also alter the image the way that you pull off the page. If I come in here and go like this, which is just creating little ripples, it's going to make it different than if I seal it down and then just pull it off. So you can manipulate these pages even further by the way that you peel them off or with your fingers. It's finger painting. It's really fun. This is a beautiful one. Here. Some of these are going, some of them haven't gone yet. That's very dark. If it's real dark, take a paper towel and wipe it out. It completely takes the ink off of there. And then shut it back over, and then there'll be a pattern. See how the pattern is forming there? That's pretty cool. This is nice. There you go. And also lay these flat. Don't hang them up, because if you hang them up and these are still wet, there will be dripping happening and it'll ruin all your textures and patterns that you've got going on in these particular pages. There's a pretty one. We're going to take a little Citrasolv and get rid of the writing down here. I take usually about 2 or 3 of these out in my backyard and just work on them and continue to play with them. I'll take some of the pages out and throw them into other pages that don't have as much ink on them. You can continue to play with these as much as you want. This is neat. All right, I think everybody probably has the idea on this now. Now these pages can be used for collage purposes, or they can be worked back into, and I kind of figured out how to work back into the pages on my own. I first tried oil painting, because I figured that the oils would be something that might work. Well, they were really too heavy and they didn't look nice. So then I tried my very famous watercolors, and they resisted. on the clay coated paper. So then I got my acrylic paint out, and it still didn't look the way I wanted it. And then I decided to go get my old acrylic inks, which I had. These are F&W acrylic inks in these little bottles, and by golly, they look just absolutely perfect when I paint onto these. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to actually paint into these.